Fire sale. I'm all for it, man. I am. I'm all for it. And it's not that I think that you should just take whatever someone gives you back in return and accept it and not care, Nick. But I 100% do not want to be sitting in a place in 2025 or 2026 and think to myself, what we could have had what, or we could have had who, because we would have given up XYZ. I outside of maybe 3 or 4 guys that I can think of that are not pitchers, I don't really care what happens where they go or what happens to them. And all due respect for their baseball career, I'm not trying to be like a bad person by saying that. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of it just it comes down to, what are you getting in return? Maybe the starting pitching market is so thin that it makes it absolutely an easy decision that you trade Martinez and Montas. And I think a lot of teams would view Martinez as a starting pitcher, especially if, there's just not a whole lot of options out there.
Right.
The problem is, though, I'm not sure how much Martinez and Montas are bringing back in return.
No.
I mean, these guys both have pretty substantial contracts. So if their Reds are just moving them to save money, I don't really support that.
Well, you can support that. You could support that if there's a way in which they could utilize that to get something that we can't. That's the thing about the money stuff with free agency and also making trades. Like if they were trade these guys away for cash considerations, right? There would be people up in arms. But I'm just openly saying that if they use some of that money to extend somebody, or they use some of that money to, I guess, for lack of a better term, next year, acquire a guy at the deadline during a pennant race that they can kind of take on their contract because it's a bad contract, but some other teams looking to give rid of. It's just really hard to quantify the cash. I mean, it could just go into Mr. Bob's pocket. I get it, but it could be used later for something better. Trying to be nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just, there's so much that can happen this week. I mean, I more was thinking about it today. The trade deadline's next Tuesday, but I mean, you just don't wake up Monday morning, be like, okay, yep, now we're sellers. Right. Let's start calling. You have to start those conversations this week. So I mean, the Reds indicating the teams that they're selling could mean absolutely nothing. The Reds go sweep the Braves. All of a sudden, they change their tone, right? I mean, so much could happen this week. Now, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and act like I expect the Reds to go into Atlanta and play well, or maybe even Tampa. I know Tampa Bay is not having a great year, but the deck's stacked against this team. But we saw all year that when we have the lowest expectations, it almost feels like this team plays their best baseball. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, yep, the Reds are, have no chance of playing well this week. I don't know if the Reds have a 5-1 week. We have a totally different conversation next Monday. That's really how wild this week's going to be.
It could be fickle. I agree, it could be fickle, but I've seen enough baseball in my mind to know where I'm standing on this situation, and that is, there's really not that many guys you could get rid of on this team, and I think there's a huge drop-off. There's just not. Now, they're not going to get rid of some of the guys that would be a huge drop-off, but you name me a player on this team that they're actually going to be willing to trade, and you tell me if they get rid of this guy, then they're going to make a world of difference. That they're 2 or 3. They're a 2 or 3 win player. Maybe Jonathan India. Maybe that's the closest guy you can get. And I guess I give you that. But outside of that, you're going to say Nick Martinez. I guess as a spot starter / long reliever going to be, or a guy that can come in and throw 2 or 3 good innings. And I get it. They're good innings, but it's not like I'm not sitting here acting like Nick Martinez isn't a savior either. And Montas, I'm not trying to talk negatively about these guys. There's just nobody on this roster that they're going to get rid of that's going to make me think, oh, we're out of it now. Cancel the season. You know, I mean, we've sat here and we've grinded through enough baseball, Nick, that I think they could throw almost damn near anybody out there on the field, and I'll probably be able to watch it because, you know, there's only so much that that we haven't seen yet at this point. I mean, we had to sit through Bubba Thompson playing in Major League Baseball for 2 months.
There's a pretty big drop off between Frankie Montas and Leon Richardson right now.
How many? Okay, that's you say that. How many wins has Frankie Montas when Frankie Montas has taken the mound in the last month? How many times has he won a baseball game?
I mean, if you want to do that for like his actual wins, I mean, I don't know. You want to go through every single start? I mean, I think he lost a couple games where he gave up like 1 run.
That's fair.
I mean,
but my point is you could have Nick Kirby on the mound that night, or Jesus, the man above, and it doesn't matter because the offense didn't score.
I don't agree looking at it that way with players. Like
I'm not saying you look at it holistically.
Trade Hunter Green then, because it doesn't matter who's on the mound. Like, I don't think that's a very fair way to look at it.
I didn't say it was fair. I'm saying from a win-loss perspective, I'm taking the whole team into account for what we're getting rid of. The reason I wouldn't trade Hunter Green is because I know next season I get Hunter Green. I don't get Frankie Montas next season, and I think in my mind that it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me, and I could be wrong. I could be the negative guy. I could be completely wrong. I'm just going to openly say that I feel that way about this team right now. I don't know if there's much you can do to fix the problem. Too many holes. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what this team really is. Honestly, it's a shame because we'll never really know either.
No, we won't. It's just it's a tough spot. I mean, we're let's just I don't want to say face the facts, but I mean, we're at a spot right now where we probably have 1 week worth of baseball left, where if they don't play relatively well, then it's curtains. And from there, we start talking about what it looks like towards the back half of the season, and we start looking at, you know, what exactly we might get out of some guys that we don't know about yet. And maybe we almost, in a weird way, you ready for what I'm about to say? We swap seasons. We thought this season was going to be last season, and we thought last season was going to be this season, and that's where we're at. That's kind of how this whole thing feels.
Yeah.
No?
Again, if the Reds drop like a couple games and the Reds are like more than 5 back, then yeah, I have no problem. Just move everyone you can. But if this team's still sitting like 4 games back and you're talking about moving Frankie Montas for a team's 70th best prospect, which is like legitimately what you might get in return because the team's taking on his salary, I'm just not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I support that. I'd rather give this team a chance and maybe they luck into it. Maybe they get hot for a month in September and go on a run because they do have the pitching. I'm totally with you. If you, like Jonathan India, if there's a team that calls and says, we're going to give you 2 top 30 prospects for Jonathan India, I say, yep, sign me up. Let's go. Let's move. But if we're talking fringe returns, I just can't sit by and say, yeah, that's great, just because of the emotions of this season and how bad it's felt. When in reality, this team's still a couple weeks away from completely changing things. So it's all a balancing act of what you're getting in return, and it's really hard to really jump one side or the other without knowing what teams are wanting to return. And maybe the starting pitching market is so bare that a team will give up something like the Angels last year with the absolutely idiotic trade they made for Lucas Giolito, where the White Sox got back a legitimate bona fide catching prospect. I doubt that Frankie Montas or Nick Martinez is going to get that. But if you could find a team, yeah, absolutely. I fully support that.
You got a chance, though, Nick, because you have so many damn teams that think they have a chance. I mean, right now, you're not totally convinced that this team doesn't have a chance. Now think about that. That in of itself is the biggest selling point maybe you could make about how the whole trade market's going to go down. There's not many teams that are willing to give up anything. So guess what? In life, when supply is very, 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 very low, you start paying for stuff that used to cost a lot less. And now you find yourself in a position at the deadline where the Reds might be fortunate to be able to get rid of some pieces at a little bit of a better rate than you'd ever thought possible. We'll find out at the deadline. We will find out. We don't know. We'll find out. Maybe the Reds will be convinced they can still hang around. I'm fully convinced that they know that they're dead in the water, and I think that that's right. I think that's the fair decision to make. Does it mean that you give up on the season? No. I'm not saying that. I think that can be misleading. I think people might think that I'm talking about the exact same thing there. No. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter at all from a team perspective. I'm saying if you're the person making the decisions in the front office, you have to make a hard decision at the deadline and say, do I really think that I'm going to find myself in a spot where I want to see this out? And the answer has to be no. Because if the answer is not no now, then you should never be a seller. In my opinion, you should never be a seller. Because the Reds are in a position where you would like to think that they're going to be much better for a multitude of purposes moving forward in the next few years, so that you should want to even even if it's a lottery ticket, Nick, I don't care. Give me a lottery ticket, single A or double A guy. Give me Boyle, I don't care who it is. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then it wouldn't have mattered anyways, is the thought that I have. But we shall find out. Fire sale, we will see.